You brought up an interesting piece that I want to segue into. Give us some background. What is 94X?
I got in a discipleship group about 8 years ago. This rocked my world, bringing God into the workplace or sharing the love of God in the workplace. Finally, one morning, the Holy Spirit told me, he's like, of course this is something you should do.
You vertically integrated, right? And now how many buildings do you think you do a year now? You sell and then you erect.
I think we did 60 projects last year.
That's a lot.
Now, that's not all supplying and erecting a building.
Gotcha.
That may be, a job where we put a new roof on a building, or that's any size job.
Yep.
So, as far as like selling and erecting buildings, probably, 20 of those or so.
It's a substantial amount of buildings. And I know you did ours, and we did a great job.
Thank you.
So those of you guys that are watching, that are from Tulsa, looking for a good metal building and a steel erector, North Star Fabrication, right?
Yeah.
So
we go by North Star Steel.
North Star Steel.
Yes.
I thought it was fabrication.
It's
two sides.
I'll tell the story a
go
little
for
bit.
it.
Okay, so since we're talking about the beginning of the business, I think this may be a good place to go. So the company, the LLC that we have everything under is North Star Fabrication, and now we are DBA as North Star Steel because we really don't fabricate much.
Fair
and so
enough.
people get a little bit confused about what do you do? You fabricate steel, or
I see where you're going now.
And so, but the reason why it's called North Star Fabrication is because when we started out, I got some contracts manufacturing flare stacks that burn off natural gas. And so I saw the writing on the wall. Like I said, I had about $200,000 in debt.
Yeah.
And I needed to pay. That was debt that needed to be paid like pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then I realized I needed about $300,000 to get the right equipment to do this manufacturing. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go into manufacturing because it was less risky, It had less variable, the weather didn't affect us. Sure. We could do this all inside a building, which is a big deal.
And the economy can affect it, just like mine too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was, putting up buildings is fairly dangerous. And so because of that and the weather, I thought, well, that should be a more sustainable business. Mm-hmm. But when I looked at what I was having to overcome, it just wasn't worth it. And so I decided to start putting up buildings again just to save enough money to go into manufacturing. And once I got, and I looked around 7 years later, I was completely out of debt and I had $300,000. Yeah. And I thought, I can do that. Like I can do it. Yeah. And I thought, I'm really enjoying the relationships that I'm building with people. And it's really not about building anymore. It's about the relationships that you have with people, and that I do business with. And so I thought, I'm just going to stick with this. And then I started, the Lord started to give me a vision for commercial real estate, and that I can have a self-sustaining business that is, where I've got some residual income that I don't have to have a whole lot of employees to do. Yeah. And that became really attractive to me.
Yeah. We talk about that a lot. One thing I can't stress enough is, people are difficult, right? Businesses are difficult in general, and then you layer that in with a business that has a lot of equipment and a lot of people, right? Is a challenge, and people for me is why I do it, right? What I'm doing right now, but it is also the most challenging thing, right?
It is.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, so let's talk about your commercial real estate.
Okay.
Yep. So, being that you were a steel erector, right? And you sold buildings. I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense to me, right? So, are you now building your own and then are you just leasing those out, like doing industrial buildings, building
Yeah.
for yourself, right? Cutting your cost on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Right? Creating yourself a spread, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
right? And basically just leasing them out to tenants on triple net leases or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. And how many you have, right? Maybe what you could share with other people that you think might help them in the industrial real estate space, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So back to staying in your lane,
Yeah.
which is what you were sharing earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal to me too. And something else staying in your lane is a big deal to me. Just like you shared, but also there's a lot of people that change what they're doing. We want to change our business. I've watched a lot of guys that I'm really close with that have owned dozens of companies over the years, only to go back to something that they knew all along.
Yeah.
And so for me, like I'm not that smart because I'm still doing the same thing that I started out doing, which is putting up buildings.
Yeah.
Right? And to be honest with you, like if I tried to learn a completely different industry and a completely different trade multiple times throughout my career, I don't know that this is where I would be.
I couldn't agree more. I think, Josh and I talk about that all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that service businesses are difficult, right? But if the day ever came, right, where somebody wrote us a big fat check, and it will come, right? We always laugh is that, we don't want to get back into, doing this again. It's so difficult to get started. And, even if you bought one, it's all the ins and outs of the complexities of owning a business. But then we always go back and we're like, man, we're not that smart, right? I don't know. I just know my craft, right? Yeah. And it is a challenge in itself to do what we've done and to do what you've done, right? Why reinvent the wheel, right?
Right.
Why reinvent the wheel and go into over here in this section or this section of things and not really knowing anything about it and how the time it takes to get the experience level that I have now. Right. Is you're starting all over again.
Yeah.
Right. And some people can do it, right? Some people can do it. But I'm like you, I'm not that smart. And I'm going to stay in my lane of what I know, right?
Yeah.
And I can replicate them again, over and over and over again. I feel like, at least.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's a good nugget for people too, is stay in your lane, right? And that's kind of where we lost track on doing all these verticals and different things. Is I just got too far out of my lane, out of my comfort zone, right? And I wasn't willing. I would say I was willing, but I didn't have the time to dedicate, to spend, or the knowledge,
right,
to make the right decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, that's cool. So, how many do you have in your portfolio now?
We just built building 7.
That's pretty good.
And so we occupy 1 and 2.
Yeah, well, we're the same way. We occupy 3 of the, I don't know how many we own, but 3 of the couple that we own, we occupy.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
You're going to pay your bills, right? Mm-hmm. It's positive.
Yeah. And so, man, where do I want to start with that? Because this has been the most interesting and exciting journey I've been on in business, and I think the most fruitful.
Real estate?
Yeah. I started out, I had some property. I had 8 acres there in Catoosa, and then that expanded to 6 more, and expanded to 14 more, and expanded to 25 more. And so it's all a real thin strip that's along 244. Very little real frontage, but some. Yeah. But good accessibility and things, and real close to proximity to Tulsa.
Yeah.
My dad knew some stuff about real estate, and so he's helped me. When I first started out trying to do some stuff, he helped me out some. And I mean, like, the first building I built, he he actually put in the septic tank for it. Things like that, and kind of give me a little advice all along.
Yeah.
So I haven't learned all of this on my own. Like every bit of it was learned through seeking out relationships with people that are in the industry and in the business. And I sought out really early to get to know developers, brokers, agents, and people in the industry.
Yeah. So what do you think, for these people that are watching,
Mm-hmm.
why is it that you think real estate is going to be so fruitful?
So that's a pretty blanket statement. And so I'll walk into that a little bit.
Okay.
It's, for me, like, it's pretty simple.
Okay. Love it.
If you buy your land right, if you build it right, if you find the right people to lease it for you,
Yeah.
and not think that you're going to just do that part on your own, I promise you that leasing it is 50% of the deal.
Yeah.
50% of the artwork to it.
Uh-huh.
Then you can do something that creates some value that's better than you could go replicate in the stock market.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
agree with you.
if not, your problem, if you pay retail for your land and you don't pay attention to what city you're in,
Occupancy rates.
I'm going to go buy a piece of land in the city of Tulsa.
Yeah.
Okay, well, 2 years later, and hundreds of thousands of dollars more than you would want to spend, and then you can finally start building. And if you hire a general contractor, you're paying at market rate, and then you try to save money by leasing the property yourself, and it sits on the market for who knows how long, and you're borrowing money. And you've got an interest payment to pay.
Paid your principal, your interest, and everything else.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to turn out to be such a great deal.
Yeah. Well, you answered that the right way. So, all right. So, you mentioned something a minute ago, and this is where I wanted to kind of tailor the next piece of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of finding some people in the right spaces, right, in your area. Meaning, you find somebody to lease it, find GCs, find brokers, whatever that you're going into. You're looking for relationships that can further your business, right, or
Mm-hmm.
the direction that you're going. And also, let's stop it there. Take a quick break. I'm gonna segue this piece into mentorship.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then into 94X.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
let's spend a little bit of time talking
Okay.
about mentorship, 94X, what it means, what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole ins and outs, right? And you know a lot more than I do on this, so I'm going to kind of segue and leave it open and talk about what do you call it? Is it, I know it's 94X, but like, is it? It's a Christian group of entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
right? To help each other and to bring value to a group, right? That's kind of what I took it as. And you're bringing in industry leaders and CEOs and different leadership individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
To spread knowledge and to bring Christ into the workplace.
Right.
Is that? And is by saying
But
that?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's several layers of it, but that's really what it boils down to, is bringing God into the workplace. And I think, if you, like, we're not like inventing the wheel here. Like, there's been Christian business owner, all these different Christian organizations that are based on the marketplace, whether that's people at work, or business leaders at work, or business owners at work, and they're all over the place. When we go to different cities, like, we went to Oklahoma City a couple of months ago, and there's multiple organizations that are doing this in one form or another, and there's some nuances that are different about them. And what I think sets 94, what we really strive to set us not necessarily apart, but what our values are, or what our culture is, and what 94X is about, is those that are right in front of us, right? because as Christians, there's a lot of really good Christian business owners out there, and they're doing great things. But a lot of those things that they're doing are outside of their business. They're taking their money and they're taking it over here and pouring into this other ministry with their time and resources and everything. And so 94X is really about, it starts with the person that's right in front of you, your employees, your customers, and your vendors.
All right, so now, I apologize to people that are listening if I sound a little froggy. My sinuses are just out of this world bad right now. I don't know what it is. I got strep. I got strep a couple weeks ago, and it just never was the same. And now I'm like, So, anyways, you brought up an interesting piece that I want to segue into, and that's mentorship and what's I know is near and dear to your heart, which is 94X, right? So, tell everybody who's listening, give us some background. What is 94X? What does it mean to you? How did you get involved in this, right? Mm-hmm. And let people know, because I think it's a awesome program that you guys are doing. Mm-hmm. Awesome group, right? And you don't see a lot of it between you and I. Mm-hmm. And we need more of that. And I don't want to ruin it, right, by talking about what it is. But I was like, man, I don't think I do a good enough job myself, right? And let's talk about it. Tell me about what it is. Tell me. I want to get into the kind of people that you bring, right? Because it kind of shocked me, and like some of the real talent that are in your group.
Absolutely.
So let's go. I don't want to ruin it. Go.
Yeah.
Tell me
for me, especially the last 16 years, I have found people to surround myself with that have poured into me. It's amazing that whenever in the professional world, especially around Tulsa, Oklahoma, there have been people be so generous with their time. Josh Carnley is one of them that has spent an enormous amount of time with me on business, information and things like that over the last several years. And I've had mentors in my life for every area of my life, whether it be marriage or training, physical condition and working out and things like that, spiritual condition, growing vertical with God, many mentors in my life, and I have read probably 100 or 150 different Christian leadership books over the last 15 years. And so that's kind of where my journey has led me, is to just surrounding myself with Christian business leaders. Mm-hmm. And I got in a discipleship group about 8 years ago with Sean Copeland and Mick Skubanek, and it's called Journey Group. And this rocked my world, because it's really about growing closer to God. It was right, it was another vertical that was in line with what my goals were. Yeah. And so at that time in my life, I really was doing the best I could, best I knew how, to follow Jesus. I'd get up in the morning, I'd read books, I would pray, I'd read the Bible, going to church, involved serving, leading groups, all these other things. And I just found myself in a place in life where I wasn't burned out or anything, but I was just kind of like, I was just doing it, and I sensed that. I'm like, I don't really feel close to God anymore. And so when I joined this group, that changed. I was in there for 3 or 4 months, and then we have a retreat in December, and I went to that retreat and spent some time with the Lord, and everything changed. And I went and there was multiple things that happened. The biggest thing is that, before that, I would do all of these things, and read books and do all of these things to try to be a better person and behave better or whatever. And then I would get to work, and inevitably somebody would make me mad, and I'd yell at them or or whatever. And then later that day, I'm like, dang it, I did it again.
Yeah.
And after that retreat, that changed. The Holy Spirit did a work in me from that day forward that really changed me. And so that's why I still do journey group. I lead a journey group at my office of about 14 guys, and just going vertical with the Lord, and just learning more about who Jesus is, and how to further that relationship with Him and live it out in our life, in every area of our lives.
Yeah, and I think to talk about that, the difference is that, I feel like I do a lot of the same things that you do, but where I have fallen short is bringing that to the workplace, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where the 94X got its start, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Mick and Sean wrote a book called 94X about, I guess it's been 4 years ago now, and so Sean called me and asked me if I wanted to be on the advisory board. And I didn't know anything about 94X, really, other than it was about bringing God into the workplace, or sharing the love of God in the workplace, however you want to say it. And I said, and I thought about it, because I'm kind of an all-in kind of guy. Like, if I'm going to tell him I'm going to do this, then I need to be like doing it in my business, right?
Yeah.
And things like that. And I'm sorry to get off track here, but just to tell you kind of where I was at, we started growing into more of an office, more office employees than field employees, and so that dynamic, or that purpose of what I was doing to bring God into the workplace completely changed, where we started subcontracting out most of what we do. So I'm not interacting with those guys anymore that worked for me, like we talked about earlier.
Yep.
And so just kind of in a place where the purpose of bringing God into the workplace was changing. Didn't know what that looked like, and it took me 2 weeks, and finally one morning the Holy Spirit told me, he's like, of course this is something you should do. God wants us to bring it into every area of our life. Yeah. And so that's when I was like, okay, duh. This is exactly what I need to be doing. And so from that point, it's been a journey for me to try to do that in my business, but also in so I started a roundtable group of Christian business owners that are trying to do this. What does this look like to bring God into the workplace? Mm-hmm. Because our businesses are almost as unique as we are. Mm-hmm. And so there's no, you're not going to get like a 12-step guide to these are the things that you need to do to bring God into your business. Yeah. It changes with the dynamic of your employees. I mean, you have solopreneurs that don't have any employees, but they have 378 customers. Yeah. Well, how do you share that with 378 customers? What does that look like? You have people that have 350 employees, and so figuring out what kind of program to implement into a business like that legally and successfully, it looks totally different. And so, yep. In the type of business that you're in, I've got so in my roundtable group, I've got guys that a chiropractor, guy that owns a counseling service, contractors, attorneys, insurance guys, and it's really cool to see how it develop ways to do that more effectively in our businesses. What does that look like? Mm-hmm. So most recently, I think the biggest game changer for me was we do EOS with our business, and the Lord showed me a few months ago, you need a spiritual leadership team. I can't do this on my own anymore. Yeah. I need a team to help us do that. And so we created that leadership team, and we met, and we decided, okay, we're all going to go serve at City Serve together, and so we've got that scheduled for December 5th. And so that's kind of one of the steps we're taking as a whole company.
Yeah.
To do some things like that.
Gotcha. So you got part of a group called 94X,
Mm-hmm.
right? That group's sole mission is to help bring awareness and bring the Lord into your workplace, which you don't see a lot of between you and I, and I'm sure you probably know that.
Yeah.
So you found your place in there, right? And you invited me, right,
Mm-hmm.
and Josh, and we started getting involved in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But to me, it wasn't just that, right? It was, we understood the agenda, right, and agree on top of that. But what I think is interesting is you're bringing like-kind Christians and developing ways, right, and opening the dialogue at least, right,
Mm-hmm.
of what you're trying to accomplish, which is bringing the Lord into the workplace, which is
Yeah.
obviously a great thing.
Right.
And how to do that, and connecting with people, right, like-minded people that can share in that and what their challenges are and how they're doing and what they're doing. And on top of that, you're building a group of successful individuals at that can help each other, mentor each other on all different fronts, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is, where I think that I've fallen short, and we talk a lot about, and I have talked a lot about mentorship, right? And I had Josh as a mentor
Mm-hmm.
in business,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the only mentor I've ever had, right? And something that I'm personally working on is, finding some different mentors in different areas of my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm getting older, it's meaning more to me, right?
Yeah.
Which I never even really. I thought of Josh as a friend, right? It never could really kind of even dawned on me until a couple of years ago, right? So he's kind of like my mentor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So finding a place you could potentially find mentors,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is an interesting thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know if you ever thought about it that way, but
Yeah.
somebody like myself, right? You can put yourself in those groups, right? In those pavilions and different things you guys are at, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Making friends with people, finding some people that that would be willing to share their time with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think opening that door to that too is something that I think it's meaningful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just the like-minded individuals that are sharing the love of the Lord in the workplace, but like-minded people in general that you can find mentorship in, right? So 94X. I went to the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are bringing in some real talented leadership individuals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is just another piece of it, right? That
Right.
Not only are we sharing, a like-minded Christian leadership
Mm-hmm.
in general, but you're bringing people in that share the same values that are on another level, we'll just say,
Yeah.
right? And I was like kind of taken back on the last one. I was like, wow. I was like, these guys are
Yeah.
pretty impressive individuals,
Yeah.
right? So your guys are sharing some really good knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So how can people find 94X?
Yeah. So primarily Tulsa based still.
Yep.
So we have open roundtables. If you guys want to come to my roundtable, it shows not open on 94xmovement.com.
Yep.
But there's a place to reach out to Mick Skubanek there, and so you can get in contact with him and more than welcome to come join my group to check it out.
Yeah.
There's other groups to go check out in the Tulsa area. So I'm the board chair for 94X now, and so one of the areas of growth is really growing the roundtables. And so a new a new piece to 94X is the chapters. And so the chapters will be a little bit larger group, and we'll have monthly meetings for those as well. And so the first chapter group is going to launch in January in Tulsa at Oklahoma Joe's on 51st and something. If you get on 94xmovement.com, you can find all that information out.
Good.
For the first chapter meeting, and so we're soon to launch chapters in Springfield, Missouri, Oklahoma City, Dallas, and several other areas in Oklahoma this next year.
Yeah.
And so the chapters is a little bit bigger group. If anybody's ever been to a faith in business breakfast or anything like that, it'll have more of that feel to it, where we get together and we have a speaker, and there'll be a little bit of stuff that we, kind of a lunch and learn type deal as well. So we're really excited about that, and excited to grow the roundtables even more this year. So, and that's really where it's at, is these roundtables, kind of like you were talking about with the mentorship. I mean, those guys, I mean, they're a sounding board for everything, I mean, we've got a lot of really important decisions that we make on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And we really need to have the lens of people that are solid in their ethical, in their values, and not just in business, but in their values, to really be successful in business and other areas of our life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like that. I agree. Right. And, even having individuals that are, that are in business around you to bounce ideas off of, right, is so helpful. Right. And we don't do enough of that. Right over here, we're trying, and we're learning, we're meeting people, and but I think anybody who's watching, they need to understand that, having those sounding boards like you're talking about, whether it be in 94X or any other group or any other congregation or anywhere that you can get around, high valued people with good ethics, right, that have found some success, is use that time. Right. And another piece I learned the other day, I did a brotherhood breakfast, and we were talking about mentors. Okay. And something stuck with me is that, and I felt like I had not done a good job with this, because I've been in front of a couple people lately, and I didn't use my time wisely. Right. And when you get in these groups, right, don't just come in not prepared for anything. You know what I mean? Have some questions written down. You know what I mean? And use your time wisely. Don't just come in there and be shooting the crap about nothing. You know what I mean? You got some people around you that can help you, right, and are willing to help you, and use that time with some loaded questions that are prepared, you know what I mean, to gain something out of it. You know what I mean? So I thought that was something stuck with me.
I think one of the biggest things that keeps us from doing that, though, is, everybody's busy, right? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm busy, but this person that, makes 10 times as much as I do, I mean, they've got to be really busy. Yeah. And I just don't want them to feel obligated to waste their time with me or anything else. And what I'm telling you, like, what I found is if you go and ask somebody for their advice, like, they're generally honored to give you whatever information they can give you to help further you along. Because just like me, like, I've had hundreds of people give me advice to help me along in life. There's no such thing as a self-made man.
Yeah. I
mean, we're all surrounded by many people that have helped us along the way. Yeah. Help whether they're employees that are on the same team with us, or individuals that give us advice along the way. There's a lot of credit to give to those people, and there's so many good people in the business world that are so free with their time to mentor people.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think anybody who's watching, I think that's a good nugget, right? Is use the people around you. They're usually more than willing to help. And something like I said, I've felt short on is just keeping everything too close, right? And asking for help when you need it, right? People are generally good. They want to help other people.
Yeah.
You know, and coming prepared for those moments, right? And getting the most out of the time because somebody's giving you your time, giving you their time, right? Make the most of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, well, guys, wanted to end it here. Will, I appreciate you giving us your time.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you. I appreciate the
I had
invite.
a good time, and hopefully the people who are watching learned some things from today. I know I have, and we will see you next week. Hopefully, I don't sound like Kermit the Frog.